Okay, starting off at number 10, like we always do, we have the Megatherium. This animal is also known as the giant ground sloth, and they were one of the largest terrestrial animals that ever lived on this planet. They measured in at about 20 feet in length, but they were a slow-moving herbivore, so animals didn't really fear this creature. Early humans in South America hunted this massive creature, and they hunted it to its extinction 10,000 years ago. Or did they? In the deep jungle of South America, there are so many tales about terrifying creatures who stands at 10 feet tall. They have enormous backward-facing claws and thick brown fur. All of these characteristics are consistent with the Megatherium's description, so maybe these aren't just stories. Next up, number 9, we have the mastodon. These hairy creatures are prehistoric relatives of the modern elephant. Mastodons have tusks, floppy ears, and a long nose, which is very similar to the elephant. Mastodons appeared on Earth about 27 million to about 30 million years ago, primarily in North and Central America. They typically stayed in the woodlands areas or sometimes around valleys and swamps. They apparently went extinct about 10,000 years ago, and most of the theories say that they went extinct because a lot of the scientists believe that the Earth warmed up too quickly from the Ice Age for the mastodon to adapt to, or that humans hunted them to extinction. So although they went extinct so long ago, a man named David Ingram described seeing creatures twice the size of a horse, hairy, and in the shape of an elephant. He accurately described what a mastodon would look like, and he said he saw them while he was traveling to the United States. There are even other people claiming to have spotted these creatures in modern times. Next up, number 8, we have the Japanese wolf. Japan used to have 2 species of wolf that used to live on islands. Biologists consider the Japanese wolf to be extinct. However, there are a ton of rumors circulating of people seeing them in the wild regions of Japan. These 2 wolf species became extinct in the late 1800s and the early 1900s due to rabies, loss of habitat, and hunting by humans. Despite their extinction, a Japanese wolf was sighted in 1910, and then in the 1930s, and then again in the 1950s. If that wasn't enough to convince you that these creatures are still alive today, there have been a ton of sightings in the 1900s. Skeptics believe the humans are mistaking a hybrid wolf dog for the Japanese wolf. That's definitely a possibility, but what if the Japanese wolf was still alive today? Pouncing in at number 7, we have the Javan tiger. They are a relatively small tiger that is as tall as a Great Dane. On the island of Java in Indonesia, this was the home of the Javan tiger, but as humans occupied more and more of the island, the Javan tiger was forced to move to the uninhabitable parts of the island. They were hunted by the humans so they could make more room for farming, and unfortunately by the time the government stepped in to preserve their species, the tiger was already too far gone. However, many locals have spotted Javan tiger claw marks and footprints, and they could still be alive because they are excellent at hiding and avoiding humans. Also in 1995, a Javan forester discovered a large group of these tigers still living on the island. These sightings continued into the early 2000s, and people are still finding evidence that the species still exists today. Swimming into our number 6 spot on our list, we're talking about the plesiosaurus. This is apparently an extinct marine reptile who lived approximately 135 years ago in the Jurassic period. They have long necks, thin bodies, wide flippers, and small heads. They have very sharp teeth and incredibly strong jaws, so they're able to feed on any fish that came in their path. Creatures matching this description have been spotted all over the world in lakes and in oceans. A lot of people believe that this animal exists, and people are just calling it the Loch Ness Monster. It is actually possible that these animals survived and they're just living in the depths of the ocean where humans are unable to explore. If this plesiosaurus still exists today, that would also explain why people have reported seeing sea dragons from around the world. The Tasmanian tiger leaps onto this list at number 5. This species is also known as a thylacine, and they were a timid and a nocturnal creature who was considered to be a major pest and a dangerous threat to livestock. They look similar to a medium or large dog, except they had a stiff tail and an abnormal pouch, kind of like a kangaroo. The government set up a bounty system between 1888 and 1909 in order to get rid of these species. So people went all over Australia killing the Tasmanian tiger, and they officially went extinct in 1936. Or did they? Since its extinction, there have been many sightings of the Tasmanian tiger in Tasmania and Australia. It has been spotted so many times times that a lot of people really believe that the Tasmanian tiger still exists today. Here's a clip that was taken in 1973 proving that these animals might still be alive. Take a look at this. Marching in at number 4, the woolly mammoth. This would be amazing to see this alive today. These creatures were closely related to the Asian elephants. Woolly mammoths look a lot like them except for a couple major differences. They were covered with a thick coat of brown hair to keep them warm in the frigid weather. Even though the woolly mammoth went extinct around 10,000 years ago, we have a lot of information about them because of the permafrost in the Arctic preserved their bodies and left them in almost perfect condition. But what if I told you that these giant creatures might still be roaming the earth? There are a lot of people who have claimed that they saw a woolly mammoth in the modern times. In the late 1940s, frozen mammoths were discovered with fresh meat still in their mouths, and every once in a while there are stories all over the internet of people claiming that they've seen an elephant creature with thick fur. Take a look at this video I have for you guys. Okay, so a man filmed what appears to be a woolly mammoth in Siberia. So what do you guys think? Did a woolly mammoth go extinct 4,000 years ago, or could they still be alive today? The Beiji dolphin comes onto our list at number 3. The Beiji dolphin, or the Chinese river dolphin, is the first dolphin to be declared extinct in modern times. This is just incredibly sad. It is the first large mammal species in 50 years to have gone extinct, and it was solely due to mankind. This animal was declared extinct in December 2006 due to harmful fishing practices such as the use of gill nets, rolling hooks, or electrical stunning. There were efforts put in place to save this species, but none of them apparently worked. But even though they are thought to be extinct, a Beiji was spotted in 2007 by a team of researchers. Unfortunately, there was only that one sighting since the extinction, but it's still possible that these dolphins might still be alive today. Stepping into this list at number 2, we have the mysterious Bigfoot, otherwise known as the Gigantopithecus. Their fossils indicate that they were the largest known primates that ever lived. They stood at a height of 3 meters or about 9.8 feet, and they weighed as much as 540 to 600 kilograms, which is about 1,320 pounds. I mean, damn. Now, these are one creatures I don't know if I want to be alive today because they're pretty terrifying. However, scientists almost knows nothing about this mysterious ape. The first piece of evidence that this ape existed, it was discovered by a German paleontologist who found a large molar. Okay, so get this, it was dubbed as a dragon tooth. For years, this was the only trace of this ape, but since then, researchers have found dozens of teeth and a few partial jaws of the Gigantopithecus. It is believed that this giant creature went extinct because the forest shrank and they weren't able to find enough food to survive and reproduce. But some people believe that the Gigantopithecus survived and evolved into Bigfoot. The two creatures look very similar, and there have been many people reporting that they have seen this mysterious creature. Okay, so topping this list, in at number 1, we have the mighty megalodon. This species of shark was the largest to have ever lived. Paleontologists believe that the megalodon was capable of growing up to at least 52 feet, which is 3 times as long as the longest great white shark ever. No one knows for sure what the megalodon looked like because all that remains from the prehistoric monster are some teeth and a few vertebrae, but paleontologists are able to make a very educated guess. Originally, the megalodon was believed to be wiped out by global warming. However, there have been many sightings all over the world by fishermen and sailors who have claimed to see this large shark. That couldn't be the great white shark because it was way too big. There was also a fossil of the megalodon tooth found deep in the ocean, which means that they still might be living in the deep sea and occasionally they come up to the surface. I mean, after all, there's still 95% of the world's ocean that still hasn't been explored, which is insane to me. All I know for sure is that I would never want to have an encounter with these beasts. Imagine surfing and then bam, the megalodon is right there behind you. Yeah, your lunch. Up in at number 10. Whoa, that guy's fast. What is that? His nose is like so long. Is this real? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know how to research this little guy. Okay, well, apparently that was the elephant's shrew, last known to be seen over 50 years ago, but it was rediscovered in August of 2020. These mighty little mouse-like creatures are thriving in Africa. Pretty cool something so small was able to evade a full extinction. So before we get into number 9, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video because it really helps us out. Alright, let's see what we have in at number 9.
The tarsier is named... Whoa! Hello there, freaky. The tarsier is named after its long, impressive bone in its ankle, you perv.
Okay, whoa, what is this little thing? So the animals on this list are pretty tiny. This one is no different. The pygmy taser of the taser family of the world's smallest primates hails from the depths of Indonesia. The taser still lives, but its pygmy's cousin is said to have been extinct, until a man accidentally captured and killed one in a mousetrap in 2000. Since then, several pygmy tasers have been found and tagged in Indonesia, and it is believed that they no longer exist.
Great big, thin, membranous ears. And those sharp teeth, more like those you'd see on a bat.
Okay, wait, first of all, I thought these things were cute, but they're pretty creepy if you asked me. Apparently these guys are adept predators for being able to fit in your palm of your hand. Pretty wild, but anyone else getting like the Baby Yoda vibes from this?
Perhaps it could live many centuries.
Next up at number 8, the terror skink. Thought once to be extinct. Well, this video shows a man who found one in Caledonia in 2018. These little things were said to be the T-Rex of their time. Serious meat-eating predator reptiles. They got their name from their mouthful of sharp teeth.
So this skink is the top predator here on this island in New Caledonia. There's no doubt that this guy is the T-Rex of this island.
Number 7. Is this real life right now? What is that? There's no way that thing existed in our life. Like, what world was that real? And those sharks, to like, when they eat things, their melts come out of their mouths, and it's just like, it's so horrifying. Here's another picture. I mean, it looks like it's real. Apparently these things went extinct many years ago, but now it has been rediscovered. This last picture right here looks so real, and it looks like it's kind of like slimy. And this one doesn't look like it was taken in the water. This one looks like it was captured, it was taken out of the water. But you can see what I'm saying about like the mouth. I'm not sure where it begins and where it ends. But is it just me, or is its teeth like exactly spaced out? Kind of creepy, sharp teeth. I'd be scared if I was like swimming and I saw one of these. Okay, so the images that we were seeing is actually the goblin shark. You guys can search it online. You guys can see so many more pictures of this. Well, it was actually said to be extinct over 125 million years ago. But like other deep sea creatures, it didn't actually disappear, it didn't go extinct. It just hid in the depths beyond human discovery, and it is said to be back and is thriving. These pictures were taken from National Geographic in 2020, so just months ago. It was actually in August. So the images you're seeing is legit. Moving right along to number 6. Move on murder wasp, Wallace giant bee, or the Megachile Pluto is said to be back in action. In 2018, 2 of these bad boys were available for the highest bidder, and none other than eBay itself, the place where we're buying Pokemon cards. I just came across a Charizard, 25 grand. Should I buy it? Okay, so apparently you can buy this creature, like you can make a transaction if you have $9,000. In 2019, a single female was found in a termite nest and reopened the species as no longer being extinct. Well, here's a clip that I wanted to share with you guys. So 100% authentic and to scale. Okay. Maybe not, but could you guys imagine like that was the size of the killer bees? Like just absolutely massive. Moving right along, number 5. What sound does a deer make? Go in the comment section and tell me. I don't know how you're gonna tell me a sound. Like, well, a cow would just be M-O-O-O-O-O. For a deer, I don't know how you would type out the sound of a deer, but we're not bringing you just any deer on this list. The Kashmir musk deer has been endangered, extinct, and back to endangered again. I mean, how does this even happen? Is this real life right now? One was discovered again in 2009, and they were back on the endangered list once again, likely because these guys are targeted for hunting because of their musk glands, which are said to be an aphrodisiac and can go for a whopping $45,000 on the black market. And just like that, number 4, these 5-inch freaks are also known as 3 lobsters, and they were thought to be completely eradicated decades ago in a small island off the coast of Australia. But 24 were found in 2001, and they were sent to a zoo in Australia, which has led them to the successful breeding and repopulation of these creatures. Whoa! That's like a stick insect, right? What does that remind you of? It's like I don't know what it is, but it's just so creepy. Okay, well obviously that was the tree lobsters. You know what? It kind of looks like it has like the scales of a lobster. The tree part is like the tree stick thing that I was referring to. Yeah, you guys are seeing a picture right now of those stick insects. They're pretty cool, but I don't know what they do. I don't know much about them. From there, number 3. What the? Is that just a dog? Like this breed of dog went extinct and now it's back and now it's howling for werewolves? It's howling for its werewolf mates? Doesn't sound like a normal dog, so maybe this is like a different creature. Well, this species of dog is actually called New Guinea's singing dog and hails from Papua New Guinea. They were thought to be extinct for decades until a pack was discovered in 2016. So there have only been 2 spotted in the wild, but there are some places around the world like the United States that have rescued what is believed to be this breed of dog that went extinct, and now they're in captivity to try to breed them, to expand them. They're clearly known for singing, you know, hence their name, hence the video we just watched. Alright, moving right along, and number 2. So many of you guys think that Bigfoot is an urban legend. Well, I know that it's real. Okay, I never saw it, but like I've seen stuff like on TV and I think it's facts. Well, this creature that is like some kind of like half man, half ape that lives a lonely life in the wilderness, well, that video was from 2020 in Utah. It's pretty far away, so it's hard to tell, but I can tell. That's Bigfoot, confirmed. For sure Bigfoot. But if that's how big that thing looks from far away, like imagine how big it is when you're up close. Maybe like 20 feet. All I know is I wouldn't want to come across one. So this video was uploaded August 1st of this year, 2020. If it's not Bigfoot, then what is it? Let me know in the comment section below, what the heck creature did we just watch? And finally, in at number 1. Okay, so that clip is obviously from a movie. If you guys didn't know, I didn't know at first. I thought it was real. But the Megalodon is said to be a real creature, and we couldn't not put this on this list. This is a real and verified clip of what was thought to be a Megalodon underwater filmed in Japan. There are reports that the Megalodon was found a couple years ago in Marianas Trench, hence the movie, hence the inspiration for the movie. Well, it was found in the Mariana Trench a couple years ago, and there was all the fuss around this creature from some of the well-known sources like Shark Week and obviously Hollywood movies that hyped this creature up. Considering 95% of the ocean has not yet been discovered by humans, it could be very possible that this thing is real in 2020. And there's probably so many other creatures we have no idea about.
Let's start off at number 10 now with the dodo. The dodo is one of the most famous extinct animals of all time, responsible for coining the phrase as dead as a dodo. The last of these birds was thought to have died out in 1662. They were only found on the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. They lived in harmony with the ecosystem there and had no natural predators until humans arrived and killed them off for food. Scientists discussed the possibility of bringing back the dodo from extinction during a TEDx discussion in Washington DC in 2013. The dodo's closest living relative is the Nicobar pigeon, and some say that one of its eggs could be fused with the cell of a dodo to create a living dodo. Imagine if that happened. It would ruin that phrase. Next up at number 9 now, we have the mammoth. Now this is perhaps the most famous extinct animal of all time. Society has been obsessed with these woolly elephant cousins for decades. Interesting fact for you guys, although most of them did die out about 10,000 years ago, a small population of mammoths survived on Wrangel Island off the coast of Russia until just 3,600 years ago. That's nothing if you think about it. Humans were running around at the end of the Bronze Age during then. Anyway, because of how recently they died out and how many of their bodies became frozen in the permafrost, scientists have actually been able to extract cells from mammoth remains. The plan is then to splice specific mammoth genes into the genome of an elephant embryo to create a sort of mammoth-elephant hybrid with all the mammoth traits we recognize. Now this isn't just for no reason either. Some scientists say that these new mammoths could help prevent tundra permafrost from melting and releasing huge amounts of greenhouse gas into the atmosphere. Moving on to number 8 now, we have the thylacine. This species died out in the 1930s after being hunted to extinction in its native Australia. It may look like a dog, but the thylacine actually belonged to the marsupial family and was a relative of kangaroos and koalas. A group of Australian scientists led by Michael Archer have previously worked on bringing back the thylacine from extinction. They called themselves the Lazarus Project. Their efforts only managed to capture some of the fragments of the thylacine DNA though, and not enough for a true clone. Still, even this was enough for people to see the thylacine as a strong candidate for eventual de-extinction. Next up at number 7 now, we have the gastric brooding frog. This little frog was native to the eastern coast of Australia and went extinct less than 100 years ago. It got its name from its interesting method of reproduction. The females would swallow their fertilized eggs, which would then hatch into tadpoles in the frog's stomach before being vomited out into the water. It sounds gross, but it definitely worked. Because of how recently they went extinct, scientists recovered enough genetic material to create living embryos. They haven't been used to create an actual gastric brooding frog yet, but some argue that even this means they are already back from extinction. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the bucado. The bucado was a wild goat native to the Pyrenees. The last one, a female named Celia, died in January 2000. Scientists preserved her cells and attempted to bring the species back from the dead. They injected the nuclei from Celia's cells into goat eggs that had been emptied of their DNA. They then implanted 57 of them into different goat surrogate mothers of closely related species. Only 7 of them became pregnant and 6 of those had miscarriages. One of the goats successfully gave birth to a clone though. Fernandez Arias held the newborn calf in his arms. He said it was struggling to breathe and all of their attempts to help failed. The calf died just 10 minutes later. It was found to have a faulty lung caused by a genetic defect. At the time, it was the closest the world has ever come to de-extinction and still remains a possible candidate. Moving on to number 5 now, we have the quagga. The quagga is an extinct subspecies of the plain zebra and lived in South Africa. The last wild quagga was hunted to extinction in 1878. The last captive one died in Amsterdam 5 years later. Now because of their close relationship to the plain zebra, some scientists have created the Quagga Project, which is attempting to use selective breeding to create a new subspecies that strongly resembles the quagga. In 2016, the project announced they had 6 individuals showing the preferred pattern. The goal is to have 50 of them and then move them to a protected area for continued breeding. Will this count as the quagga being brought back from extinction? Let me know what you think. Alright, moving on to number 4 now, we have Steller's sea cow. This sea mammal was discovered by Europeans in 1741 on Bering Island in the northern Pacific Ocean. It went extinct just 27 years later after being hunted for its meat, fat and hide. It belonged to a group of species known as Dugongidae. The only surviving surviving species of that group is now the dugong. Some scientists hope that if enough sea cow DNA can be recovered, they can fuse it with the egg of a dugong and bring back the sea cow from extinction. One major problem though is size. Modern dugongs are just a fraction of the size of the extinct sea cow, so the pregnancy would be extremely difficult. Let's just say that. It's a problem that's still being worked on though. Next up at number 3 now, we have the passenger pigeon. Okay, this one might not be as cool as some of the other animals on our list, but give it a chance. In the 1860s, there were billions of these pigeons across North America. One account said that a flock once passed over southern Ontario that was a mile wide, 300 miles long, and took 14 hours to pass overhead. Less than 50 years later, they were extinct, mainly due to mass hunting. Enough specimens have been preserved so that scientists could reconstruct the bird's entire genome. The plan would then be to fuse this with the egg of the passenger pigeon's closest living relative, the band-tailed pigeon. However, there is no guarantee that the band-tailed pigeon will then tend to the egg or even look after any successful hatchlings. Next up at number 2 now, we have the auroch. About 10,000 years ago, the prehistoric settlers of India and Eurasia domesticated the auroch, an animal that looks a lot like a cow. That's because all modern day cattle are the descendants of the auroch. The auroch itself went extinct in the wild, but scientists are hoping to bring it back through back-breeding cattle. This is where they breed cattle together that resemble the auroch. They then take the calves that most resemble the auroch and breed them, etc., until eventually you get something that looks a lot like an auroch. One example of this that's already happened is heck cattle. Here's some pictures of them now. However, some people have debated whether these even really look like auroch. They're also a lot smaller too. Maybe they will get there one day though. And finally, number 1 now, we have the Carolina parakeet. This bird was hunted to extinction 100 years ago. It was native to the eastern US, which surprised me because its plumage would suggest it was much more tropical. Its feathers were also the reason it went extinct. Many of them were hunted so that the feathers could be used in women's hats, which were fashionable at the time. Some remained as pets or in captivity, but eventually they all died out. Now, as with many others on our list, their extinction being quite recent is a reason why they could make a good candidate for de-extinction. Some people worry though that if it was brought back, history would just repeat itself all over again as their feathers would instantly become valuable.